My name is Mike Maat. I am the Libertarian Party candidate. I'm a police officer. I have been for the past 11 years in Broward County, or at least until a few weeks ago when I quit to campaign full-time. You all are going to get one of these fancy yellow and black and white campaign cards. If you don't have one, you want to make sure you get one, because these are going to be real collector's items. These are good-looking cards. They have a lot of important information on here. If anyone wants information on any of the candidates, you can call me and I'll fill you in. I know all about Jason and Sheila, who's not here, so these are really valuable things. You want to get one of these. And of course, the primary way that you're going to get one of these is by talking to Deanna, our Libertarian Party chairperson, or my wife, Nancy. If you have personal questions about me, you want to ask Nancy, and if you want questions answered about libertarianism, you have to ask Deanna. So this card, if you'll notice, it has two different sides. That is very strategic. We were considering paper with 3 sides, but we got paper with only 2 sides. One side talks about the fact that I'm a police officer. We're very pro-police reform. It's a little weird. I want to get to that. And the other side, it has a whole bunch of things about economics. Police work is a second career for me. I was an economist for a couple of dozen years before that. I taught economics at Nova and Barry, the local universities. I taught at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., where I was in grad school. Worked for the White House as an economist for a couple of years, and for other government agencies for a couple of years, so I sort of been around the block. So you have this card here with 2 different sides of Mike. That's not terribly interesting. The most important part, though, and what is more interesting about this card, is it's libertarianism all over. And some of you may wonder, well, you know, what does that mean? You know, what does it mean to be the Libertarian Party candidate? Libertarianism, the libertarians are the folks that stand up for your rights when our government gets a little bit too big or too powerful or too intrusive. In other words, times, I would argue, times like today. We have a lot going on the past bunch of years in which we've had succeeding administrations take a shot at taking your rights away. They make decisions that are not supported by the offices they hold. They make decisions unilaterally. They decide what they think is good for you. Bless you. The big example that's in the press these days is about vaccinations, right? I personally am vaccinated. I've been vaccinated 3 times by 2 different companies. I'm looking forward to getting my 3rd. I'm going to collect them all. Then I'm going to travel abroad and get a few more vaccinations. Maybe I'll get, you know, the full 10 of them that are out there around the world these days. I feel really strongly about the vaccinations. But I do believe that when the government decides that everyone has to get vaccinated or you can't work, for me, that's a bridge too far. You ought to be making this decision on your own. I don't have a problem with the government telling you ought to be vaccinated. I don't have a problem with creating some incentives. But when they tell you you're going to lose your job if you don't do what we tell you to do, for me, that's, like I say, that's a bridge too far. For me, I made this decision the same way every married American man should make this decision, and that is that my wife told me to get vaccinated. And so, you know, that's worked out pretty good for me. If any of you have tough decisions coming up, you can call this number. I'll put Nancy on the phone, and she can make that decision for you, too. The other area that's come up a lot is fiscal responsibility. I feel very strongly about that as an economist, as you might imagine. And that means a couple of different things. As Jason brought up real quick, yes, of course, we need to make sure that we maintain the safety and soundness of the Social Security Trust Fund. I think we need to honor the promises to retirees, especially now that I am one. I think that's very important. We need to make the promises, keep the promises that we have made. I also believe that we need to maintain the safety and soundness of the federal government. But I do believe it's a bridge too far when we start giving away money for absolutely no good reason. Thanks, Jason, for mentioning this. Sheila's, you're all aware of the Democratic candidate, Sheila McCormick, who brought up this idea of giving everyone $1,000 a month. It's a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea on ethical grounds. It's a horrible idea from public policy standpoint because it does not help people in poverty. We've tried this idea in the past. It just doesn't work. Nor can our government afford it. It created a debt crisis. we're running into an inflationary monetary crisis in this country. So there's all kinds of reasons why it's not a good idea. But speaking of libertarianism, libertarians believe that just because you've got dumb ideas, and to be frank, she does, but just because you've got dumb ideas doesn't mean you should be removed from the ballot. There is a lawsuit pending in this county to remove Sheila from the ballot because other Democrats are arguing that her ideas are so bad that they're tantamount to establishing some sort of a bribe. That's probably a bridge too far also. When the government takes away your right to vote for bad ideas, that's too much. I do believe that you should have the right to vote for whatever nincompoop you want to vote for, including me, by the way. So I don't like the idea of taking your rights away. And it was in the news lately, Jason's had a lot of guts coming off of his past and helping teach the whole world about some of the difficulties in our criminal justice system. One of the difficulties is that after you serve time, the government wants to take away your right to vote and therefore take away your right to be on the ballot. And, for me, again, that's a bridge too far. I do believe that you should not lose your right to vote or to run for office just because you've had a run-in with the law. Indeed, I do believe that the problems that, and I think Jason would agree with me, the problems that he had with the criminal justice system came from what was arguably a medical problem. Under my plan, criminal justice reform would take place in a way that would no longer criminalize certain aspects of drugs, and we'd treat it as a medical problem, which is, I think, most appropriate. So, again, I'm running for office to keep your right to vote for whoever you want, your right to make decisions as you want, and for fiscal responsibility to maintain a good, healthy future fiscally, not only for us, but for succeeding generations. Thanks a lot.